the rationale behind the tactical architecture. Again, just in short, but it's been said in the last video I posted, and it's been written out in a reply in the text thread. Okay, but in short, for whatever reason, I ended up in mid-range grappling. So all my other previous tactical spectrums were non-functional. In mid-range grappling, you would attempt to do the throw first. He ends up countering the throw, but this is mid-range grappling through internals. So his center is being seized, and I am projecting it. The wrestler, whoever it is who's grappling with me, is going to realize, they're going to feel intuitively that the contact point that I'm using is what is generating the center seizure / projection. So they're going to try to yin, they're going to do a yin yield on that. When they do that yin yield in that moment, that arm is not connected to the core muscle groups. It becomes very manipulable. It will get them off that center though. That's why they do it. If you, as a side note here, when we do the center projection or the Kokyu cultivation drill set, it's very important that the uke keep the same energy and the same skeletal structure so I can do that. And as you are trying to train your uke, or as we here, we have lower level uke, just like there anybody who doesn't have enough hours in, enough reps, and so they underperform, okay? And one of the ways that they underperform, the new uke, the one who doesn't meet the training equations yet, is when you try the cultivation drill set and they go to push, they do that. Or he goes to push me back and they do that. And many of you have been corrected, hey, don't let your uke do that, because we are using their skeletal alignment to give us enough gross insight into what we're doing, okay? But you saw in them, in that reaction, the same thing that people do at the speed of life inside a fight. They're gonna try to get rid of that and regain control of their center of gravity, okay? That is what is happening in Ikkyo. You seize their center, you're starting to project it, they realize they're gonna lose their balance, they're gonna yin yield or hyper yin yield on the arm. The arm is now isolated from the core muscle groups, it becomes manipulable, and we do an arm isolation technique, in this case, the arm bar, okay? We went over that. We also noted that we just don't have the projection skills. Either we can't generate the start of that sequence because we cannot seize the center, and or we cannot project their center such that their line of gravity is going to fall outside their base of support. And so we cannot really generate that arm isolation movement, okay? What that looks like is, don't project me, just kind of do it externally here, is your uke is very strong. The core is still able to do what it needs to do here and even push down. Your Federite uke doesn't do that. They kind of are just here and then they fall down. But your ukes who are not trained in the culture, they're able to wonder what you're trying to do because they're really strong here, okay? If you now try to push on them, that's where you get that walk, okay? For example, we have to get that seizure and that projection. To do that, we need internal skills. You just have to go back to the Kokyu cultivation drill set. You have to put in time. You have to come here, or you have to do the video exchange. It takes years. There is no one here who got it like it's some technique to get. It's a skill to get. Skills take years to develop. And you can see here, in our deshi here, while they are ahead of where you all are at, they're not all at the same level because they have different levels of commitment and they haven't all met the training equations. But none of them have less than 1 year trying to work on this stuff. Okay? Many of them, lots of years working on it. And the ones who are more skilled at it, they have more actual training hours at it than ours that are not as skilled at it, okay? So you need to put your time in, you need to be patient, get in that video exchange, and as I've shared recently, Ivan's just proof it can be done. I've never met him. He's never felt my technique, but he exchanges the most videos with me out of anybody in the group. So just like the Deshi here that can do it, they have the most training hours out of the others who cannot. Ivan has the most video exchange hours out of anyone else in the group. He can do it more than other people can do it, okay? The next thing that we have to deal with is how not to push uke away. And then the last thing to deal with is how to do the X pattern, okay? So, going in review again, we know the rationale behind the tactical architecture. I can't really generate it until we address the second thing. I need the internal skills. What do I have to do? Not try to fix Ikkyo, do the Kokyu cultivation drill set. This third thing of not pushing uke away is we can fix that. And if we fix this, we can kind of game ourselves to be able to also get the X pattern, okay? And that's what we're going to do today. We're going to leave the other two stuff off the table, and we're going to look at how do I not push uke away, and by not pushing uke away, how do I actually enter? Because I cannot enter on someone who is perpetually being pushed ahead of me. It's impossible, okay? All right, so the main thing is first let's set up what we're looking at. We get to here, okay? You got to here. And let's mark his elbow in the vertical plane. Okay, and we're going that way. The push that I'm talking about is I take his elbow and I continue to move it in the direction that we're traveling past where it was. We'll do it one more time. Put it right where it is. Cool. And now I push it forward off that vertical plane, forward like that. That's the problem. I can't enter on that because I am perpetually moving them ahead of me, okay? And if I can't enter, then I can't do the X pattern. There's two places, there's three places that allow me to enter without pushing him forward. The first one is related to the Kokyu projection and his counter to the throw in the hyper yin yield, okay? If he keeps his arm straight, then where I'm touching will get his center. So he hyper yin yields just like the bad training partner in the Kokyu cultivation drill set, okay? Of course, that means that as I travel with his elbow, he didn't go forward, okay? It's yin. And this is very important because this is now the harmonization of yin and yang. He has yin, I can enter. When I push the elbow, his inertia and his mass, his inertia keeping him still, is yang aspect. And so this is technically a yang-yang clash when I push that ahead. This is why, for example, you can do it on smaller uke or people you outrank because they'll never go against you, okay? And why you can't on people that outrank you or especially big, heavy uke who outrank you, right? Or big, heavy uke who don't know the choreography that they're supposed to lay down. You're feeling the yang-yang conflict, okay? When you're trying to rest someone or fight someone, they're just going to resist it and you're not going to be able to do it, okay? All right, so there is that first yin yield when he hyper yin yields there in response to the projection on his center. We're not really going to play with that today. We're going to play with the other two yin yields that I do. So when I'm going to have him kind of push on me, okay, I don't go from the inward spiral up to the elbow as many of you are doing. So it kind of looks, here's my hand, and you're going here. This grip here, I'll do it slow and you'll see what's happening. Take your hand off the mat, okay? You'll see that that elbow is moving forward. So we'll do the plane again, okay? And me trying to go from the grip to the elbow will make his elbow move forward of the plane. Sean, is she on the elbow plane?
Yes.
Yes? Okay. So we'll do it slow. I start to shift my weight. I start to reach for the elbow. You start making it go forward. At the speed of light, it might only go forward an inch and you got on the elbow, but you just made him go forward. You made inertia go forward. And it's just the beginning of that pushing forward, okay? What I do after I get here is one more turn so I get the trap. And when I do that one more turn, are you there?
Yeah.
Okay? When I do that one more turn, that's a yin yield. You can see his elbows coming slightly back towards me, okay? We'll do it one more time. I'm here like that. I do one more turn. You can see that his arm's coming back towards me, okay? You will, how big you make it, like any other yin-yang reconciliation, is dependent upon how much yang is in his grip. So if he has a lot of yang in that grip, you're going to do a pretty big yin-yang. If he has, for example, very little yang, because in his projection, he barely has any fingers on there. Do you see? There's barely any fingers. There'll be less push as I come through. It's a very small, got it? Barely any fingers, okay? The wrist is going to do it and not the big hand movement. The wrist does it, boom, that's it, and I didn't push it forward. If he has a lot of fingers on there, that's a lot of yang, you're going to push it. So you have to yin yield. You see how I brought the elbow back towards me, okay? That's the first thing you have to do, and that should have happened because you went for the trap position first and not this thing. You're over here, okay? So if the guy who yin yield, what they can always do is come back in. Do you see? So you can't assume with this cross, I reach all the way across, that I'm going to be fine, because when he comes back in, I have my arm on the other side. Instead, I'm here like this with my hands in front of my center. He comes back in, your hands are in front of your center. You could do any number of things, okay? So you have to pass through that trap. That trap requires a yin yield that makes him come back towards you about an inch, okay? Depends on how much yang he has. The next thing is you have to understand why you push the elbow. In Federite Aikido, that's the dressage pony cue. Like a rider in dressage would do heel pressure on the right leg. It tells the pony, I want you to prance, okay? So the same thing here. When they push here, the uke knows through training, don't move that foot anymore. Don't step with this leg. Go down on that knee. You see? But you know, as one of you found out firsthand, that there's nothing stopping that uke from stepping with this leg as you push. That one of you had that in your video, and we demonstrated that's very possible. That's the question no one asked in Federite Aikido. What is stopping the uke? Why? What is making the uke leave that foot there? Okay? There's nothing stopping the uke, okay? So you have to understand that that was just a cue for them to do what they've been trained to do. And you have to understand that pinning cannot be done with me pushing someone away from me. Pinning is in and down, not out and away, okay? And I can't enter and something that is being perpetually moved ahead of me. So if we again mark his elbow, okay, you're going to notice that his elbow does not go forward of that line, but actually is coming this way on the line. So we go here, boom, there's that little inch that I got there, and then his elbow's going this way on the line. Depending on how much yang he has, how much inertia there was in the spinal displacement, you might not have it come this way. It might just stay right where it's at, okay? But you definitely don't want to shove it ahead of you. So you have some of your submissions where you're out here like that. Now that's not where your power is. Your power's over here. We even had some of our deshi that had that happen, okay? This is going around this way. So think about it in regards to this. His elbow's out there. I yield. My arm is out there. I am going to enter. And you can see that this elbow, plane please, is still slightly forward of my power line, which is over here. So if I push down on this straight, just go straight down, you can see it's to my left, where it needed to be over here. So there always was, it's just, you're so used to the Federite way, that you move it that way, that you can't see that there had to be some way that on the one step, he was able to bring the uke's hand and his hand back underneath him, okay? So, boom, shoo. Start looking for that elbow, not going forward, coming back. Now, that said, you're going to run into the problem, what's making him go down? Because you lost your dressage cue. The dressage cue is that he goes to his knee, okay? You lost that. What's making him go down is the X pattern. That means his head is coming around, which it will because the elbow came back. The inertia that was happening on the spinal displacement, when I bring the head around, makes the leg go around with the centrifugal energy, which you experienced in the throat, okay? And then you have the third force here at the hip. That's the Miyashi. So that's where we're going now. This hip is going to be hit by this koshi simply with the idimi. It's nothing more. Virginia, would you mind? You're going to hold this. Okay? And you're going to, when I say, you're going to turn his head by pulling it. I'll push this to be the inertia, and this is my koshi. 1, 2, 3. That's all we're doing, okay? Boom, boom. I am not having, therefore, to push his elbow down. he's falling. The elbow's going to come down as gravity pulls his center of gravity closer to the earth. Okay? I just let it come back around me. I push, and I keep it on that trajectory of the power line as we mentioned in the previous video. Okay? So it's effortless. Boom, pop. Make him fall and aim him as he's falling. When you have a beginner, you kind of do it because he's gonna fall. There's no, and you know, I've said this many times with the rest. My ukes always laugh about how you tell them how great they are at their ukemi. They're just getting thrown. I mean, they're good at keeping their head off the mat, but they don't have to do all the acrobatics that you see all around, which, you know, those acrobatics are impressive, but it's not Aikido. My people don't do that. They just get thrown and they learn how not to die when they hit the mat. There is talent in that, okay? But it's not the same as like Shirakawa or those people, you know, that have to know all this choreography and be very gymnastic, okay? So the beginner doesn't need to know anything for me to do this even slowly. I just slow. Because what if you mention my beginners are too afraid of it? Well, don't send them flying. Just do the geometry. Boom. It looks pretty gentle, okay? We're gonna let everyone try this and see if they have questions here and see if we need to film another clip. All right, so when people see the X pattern, they will think of it through the ego tripartite mind, and they don't understand the centripetal energy is at work, the centrifugal energy is at work, and the initial inertia of the spinal displacement. It's these forces that are at play, and then it's a tiny little bump. That's all it is, okay? You see the uke go flying, boom, right? Boom, up high, and you'll go like, I have to do something big, and it has to be material based, matter based. It's not matter based, it's energetic, okay? Those things have to be in place. So it's not uncommon when you now are able to enter, because you're not pushing them away, you're now able to get into, I like to call this like a wave. So I grew up in Huntington Beach, and we used to shoot the tube all the time. And so there's a wave here. This hip is up higher than the other hip, and that is where my lead hip fits, okay? And then as I'm just entering, that's what does the displacement, okay? You're now going to not close the wave off, because when you push them, this hip is now parallel to the other one, and it's about to get lower as you're going. The wave closed on you. So like a new surfer, you're like, dude, you missed the tube because it already closed on you, okay? There's a time and place for it, and you have to be in the right time and place. With your arm now coming back towards you, it's going to probably be there. You're going to return to your material thinking, and you're going to try to trip this leg underneath, or you're doing something like that. I'm not doing that. Or you're going to do this, over rotate. I didn't do that either, okay? All I'm doing is fitting the yang koshi into this yin spot that's here. It's going in, boom. Now you have to remember, I don't do the Federite koshi. I'm not in this stance where this is never yang, it stays yin. So when we're here, if you enter with that stance, you don't get it. Remember, my inimi enters on the straight and then turns in. So you have that foot slightly in, and that's what brings it. You don't have to go past that. You don't need to do a hip bump or anything like that. That's different. Different. Enter as if you're doing a diminage on this hand, my style of a diminage. That's it. Your Federite uke, they always freak out. They don't know what's happening. And because they feel so off balance, it's very common that they're going to try to roll on you. Meaning, you came out, and you do a roll that way, okay? And they do something like that. You're going to do a roll. Okay? First, some of you already had that experience, but it was exacerbated by you were pushing the elbow as you were trying to do the X power. Okay? You won't get as bad a roll, but you may feel their upward pressure as they try to basically resist your technique. That's what that is. They're not letting you do the technique. They're violating the rule of neither assisting nor resisting. Okay? So all you got to do is keep control of the elbow. Constantly 90-degree fluctuation, that energy. You would feel it in your hand because you had to fluctuate, but no one else would know that they were trying to roll out, okay? That's the ideal. So if they roll out, it's not their fault. You didn't 90-degree fluctuate that upward lift into where you need them to go, okay? All right, here, I told Sean and Virginia to purposely try to roll out of it, and we're gonna watch Ronan. Go ahead and 90-degree fluctuate. You can say it's not like umphing their arms down. You can see the energy in them trying to do it, but it doesn't change anything for the nage. Okay, let's switch nage. And you're trying to roll out uke. And we got one because you pushed your elbow forward. And you push your elbow forward on your demo too. Come on. You see that little push forward, you needed 2 moves to do it. Caught it 2 moves again at the end. 2 moves again. Two moves again. Gary, you tried to muscle it. You're too small to muscle it. So you have a straight arm and then 2 moves at the end. Okay, got it? So again, we're not all at the same level, right? Okay, not even here in this dojo. So it has an impact on what we're able to work on and not work on and what we should be working on, okay? And so everyone is where they're at, and we just keep moving forward from where everyone is at.